Welcome back to Chumming with the Spirits, your favorite podcast in the Midwest. Hopefully, maybe not, who knows, but we're here.
At least top 100.
Special guest?
Yeah, special guest here, Mr.
Am I still special?
Yeah.
I've seen the bus.
Mr. Jason Kupsik, who's putting on the Kansas City Paracon here in August.
What day in August?
August 8th?
No.
2nd?
I knew he was going to say 8th. That's August 2nd.
August 2nd, and where's it located at?
Kansas City.
No. It's in Leavenworth, which is in the metro, in the Kansas City metro.
See, Kansas City.
And what can we expect at this Paracon that we're doing?
These guys be there.
Okay.
Gold sponsor.
And who else are you going to have there?
We're going to have Dustin Perry, Rochelle Stratton, and Brian Murray, formerly of Ghost Hunters. We're going to have David Glidden, Joshua Cutchin. We're going to have the Signing Paranormal Seekers.
Hysteria 51.
Hysteria 51. And by the time this comes out, I will have announced Dan Williams in the PRA crew.
Sweet.
Nice.
Going to be doing
Random numbers.
Yeah.
Dave, random
Okay.
numbers.
Nice. I've only heard a few. I know who Dustin Perry is, obviously. Is there anything you can tell us about some of the other people?
Well, if we're going to do that, I'd rather be more prepared. Because I can tell you about what they did and stuff, but I didn't. I don't want to give. They were on Ghost Hunters.
They're all on Ghost Hunters?
Yeah, they were
A
on
lot of
Ghost
them were.
Hunters, yeah. Joshua Cutchin has written lots of books. I've followed him for years, and he is more on the metaphysical and like fae folk and cryptid side.
Nice.
And I'm still looking for a local UFO speaker. If you're a local UFO speaker and you're not crazy, and I want to meet you first, no offense to anybody, but I got to do that. Just reach out.
Well, that's actually, you kind of bring up a good point. We should let you get prepared, and we should do just a quick shout out of, like, because we can post all the pictures of everybody that's going to be there, give you a little bit of time. Because, I mean, you do have a nice lineup of people, some authors, the vendors, because we know fellow creeps are going to be there. We're going to be there. You have...
we have a ton of vendors. We have a ton I haven't even announced yet because I've been out of town. We're actually pretty close to full. I'm going to have to try to find more room for vendors. But if you want to be a vendor, you can book a spot on the website.
Okay, and there's going to be a ghost hunt as well?
There's 3
Multiple.
ghost hunts right now.
Okay.
There's the one at the penitentiary with the 3 ghost hunters, the 3 people from the Ghost Hunters show. That's at the Kansas State Penitentiary, brand new place, just opened up to investigations. There's only going to be a couple before then, and they're not going to be with people from Ghost Hunters. There's also 2 investigations at the venue. There's the Friday night investigation and the Saturday night investigation, which these guys are hosting and running. And they're all going to sell out. And when they sell out, we might announce more. But we're going to wait till those sell out.
And you can get tickets for?
ParaconKC.com. The Friday night investigation at the venue is 40 people, but it's only $25. The Saturday night investigation is only 13 people, and that's $75, but a portion of those 13 people are taken up by the VIP tickets, which there's only one left. We had 15 different VIP tickets. There was 10 of one and 5 of another, and we only have 1 of those VIP tickets left overall.
Wow. And what's it cost to get in just to come to the...
$10 just to come.
Wow.
$10 to come to the event and see all the presentations and visit all the vendors. There'll be food being served in the kitchen, breakfast and lunch for a small donation. And the proceeds from that donation to the food, I say donation, but because the proceeds from that, on top of the cost of the food, are all going to the charity that we are donating to. And I want to get this right, so forgive me 1 second to make sure I get the name of the charity right, because I wasn't
He
ready.
thought we were talking about cryptids.
Be real quick.
Yeah.
So, Warriors Ascent. So, I don't know if you guys ever met him, but I know Larry did.
Larry had met him.
a good friend of mine and a good friend of a lot of people in the field, in the community here, as well as outside of Kansas City, passed away in 2020, and his name was Richard Rose, and he was a military veteran. In fact, he lived in Leavenworth when I met him. So when I decided to bring back the Paracon, I decided that a portion of our proceeds were going to be donated to Warriors Ascent, which is what they do is they help veterans cope with moral injuries. And so a portion, all of the proceeds from the food and a portion of the proceeds from the event, really most of the proceeds on top of our costs, are all going to be donated to that charity in Richard Rose's name. And I haven't gotten it on there yet, but I'm doing it tomorrow, so by the time you're watching this, there's an additional donate button that will be on the website that if you're outside of Kansas City and you can't make it, but you feel like supporting the charity, you can donate directly to that button, and 100% of all the money that comes through that button will go to the charity.
Nice.
And there will be collection bins at the event if you just want to drop off some cash.
That's a good thing. That's a really good thing.
So that's it. We can do an episode at some point in the future where we break down everything that's happening there, including all the vendors and everything you can expect, and the history of the building that we're in.
Pretty neat beetle.
And all kinds of stuff. But we got a purpose on this episode.
Well, before we start our purpose, do you mind if I ask a question about Richard Rose and have you tell a story if it's possible?
I mean, I can.
So, on May 30th, we are going to a bucket list place for one of us, the Sally House.
Yeah.
You want to tell them that story?
Yeah, I mean, it's not very long.
Okay, well, I didn't know if we were allowed to or not.
Should we,
I mean,
should we
yeah,
toast?
Let's toast
yeah.
Richard Rose.
to Richard Rose.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So I'm just going to go into the assumption that everybody watching knows the Sally House. We don't need to go into the history of it. It's the Sally House. Look it up. It's in Atchison. It's supposed to be one of the most haunted places in the country, let alone the state.
It had its own TV show.
Bollocks.
It had its own TV show.
Sightings.
It's been on every TV show there is. The basement of the Sally House, which is not supposed to be open to investigations now. People are not supposed to be allowed to go down there.
We can't go down.
I've personally never been there. Something always happens. I've been planning to go there no less than 5 times. And something always happens, like I'm busy, or I can't make it, or I get invited and I can't do it. So I guess, yeah, I've been invited 5 times and it just never worked out. So I've never been there, but Richard Rose was a tour guide at the Sally House, and he would let people in on investigations there. And there, in the basement, there's a big crack in the wall that has a hole in the wall that everybody said was a portal to hell or something. And that's where most of the energy would come from. And at one point, as a joke, I don't know if it was as a joke, but just to see what would happen, just because Richard Rose took a bottle of holy water that he got from someone, and he blessed the portal with it. And I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what his blessing was, but he did throw the holy water in there. And for months, if not a year after that, everybody talked about, they didn't know that he did this, but everybody would talk about how there didn't seem to be so much activity in the house during that time. And then it started coming back.
And now no one's allowed in the basement.
Apparently.
No,
I don't know how this would have been he died in 2020,
So
so
we're
this would have been
talking
pre that.
2018.
And he lived in Ohio for a couple years before he died, so this was 2018 or before that he did this. So
yeah, currently, the basement's off limits. We're not allowed to go in the basement. Safety concerns is what they're saying.
Yeah.
So if I pour my wife's holy water on myself when I go in there, you think
You should be fine.
You think it's going to kill all the activity?
For you.
I mean, it could.
Or attract
I
it
don't
all.
know.
Could be like flies to molasses, but it's hard to say.
It's hard to say. For me, with
Like,
holy
stink on
water
shit.
or things that protect, like protection in general, I'm not super religious, but I believe in the aspects of what you could call the power of religion
Belief
could
and faith.
do.
Yeah.
And belief is the word for me. It's more the intention of what you're doing that could cause something to happen. I'm not going to discount people's interactions with faith and religion and things that could have that kind of power out external of a human. But I personally do believe in the power of oneself. So I think that it could have been Richard Rose, his intention, just as much as
The
it could have been the holy water itself.
Okay, well, I'll skip real quick. And this is what we do. I'm bringing the first black man to the Sally House.
Yeah.
How do you know?
And we know what happens to black men in scary movies.
How do you know?
So
How do you know is the first black man there?
There's no
Did
diet.
Ghost Bros ever go there?
I don't know.
Actually, I don't know if the Ghost Bros, which we
I've never watched that show.
We didn't
Oh,
meet
it's
him,
actually
but we
pretty
talked to him.
decent.
I asked him. I told him I didn't recognize him with his shirt on. And after that,
I say you. Well, I don't think they keep a census of the people that go in the Sally House in their race.
Well, we can edit that out. I'm just saying. Do we have a chance for more activity with Juan and Perichum there?
I think we got a lot of that chance.
We put them two together. I mean, the end of the
Otherwise,
world
it's a
can happen.
very expensive night for nothing. I'm gonna be chasing Larry around with something. At some
So
point.
they think there's a theory that I attract activity.
I think we've already talked about that, Jason.
I think it's possible.
I think they. Just
I think there's
notice
a
you
reason
more.
I stick you in places that it's not just to terrorize you.
It's because shit happens.
Otherwise-
I
he
can't
feels like
say
a bad
that
guy.
there isn't a payoff in terrorizing you that's funny, but there's a reason I do it.
Yeah, there's a reason.
So the Sally House isn't a bucket list for you. You haven't even been there.
No, I
And
wouldn't.
I get by OG. I mean,
I wouldn't say it's a bucket list
Thanks.
for me, but as a paranormal investigator, I think it's a must.
I'm gonna say it's
Does
like
that make sense?
It's
It's
the most.
intriguing.
It's the most documented haunted location within an hour of us, right?
Fair.
Yeah.
Been on
I would
TV?
say that it's probably the most documented location within 12 hours of us.
I mean, because there's been non-paranormal groups go in there get activity.
So you think it's bigger than like the Missouri State Pen, Villisca axe murder?
So we are
For
jaded
documentation?
to the reputation of it because we live here. If you ask somebody
That's fair.
that's a paranormal investigator in California, the top 5 most haunted places in the Kansas, Sally House will be mentioned.
that's
Missouri
fair.
State Pen will not.
That's fair.
Well, that's because it's not in Kansas.
Well,
But still,
that's
I have to say-
I just meant
I know.
top 5 overall.
Yeah,
haunted
top-
places.
I have to say anymore nowadays because of the good stuff that Stephanie's been doing. At
Oh, the
Magazine
cameras.
Villa,
It's coming.
I think hers would be.
Yeah,
in
but
that
again,
list.
we're jaded to it.
Yeah,
We're in the
yeah.
field and we're right here. I'm not saying it couldn't be mentioned. If you ask an investigator in New York or California, just because they're opposite, or even Texas, top 5 haunted places that you know about, Sally House is going to be on there. The other
That's true.
places are not.
That's true.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
that's fair.
That's fair.
Absolutely.
So
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No. So let's get on to our
So
subject.
before we get into our topic for this evening, please
5
take
hours later.
5 hours later. Please take a look at this clip from our sponsorships and what's coming, and where you can go to catch us.
Dude, that's an awesome shirt. Where'd you get it?
Yeah, man. This is my favorite new podcast that I've been listening to, Chumming with the Spirits. They talk about paranormal, drink whiskey. It's pretty badass. You should check it out.
Where can I check him out at?
You can check them out on cwtspodcast.com. They actually have our shirts for sale. They've got really cool drinking gear. It's pretty awesome. If you like to drink and you like to talk about ghosts and Bigfoot and crap, I highly recommend checking them out.
Well, whoever did that logo is probably pretty cool.
Yeah. Go check them out.
So we're going to talk,
Welcome back, by the way.
Carter.
Do I bring this out, you guys?
No.
No.
he brought it out of his nose. So, Chumming with the Spirits, special guest, always special, Jason. We're going to be discussing cryptids. Are we going to do a list of them, or are we doing
My favorite
another
topic, man. Let's just
Yeah,
talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it.
I
Let's
think we should-
just ramble off some cryptids and discuss them. You want me to give the go ahead to start the?
Yeah, man.
I'm hopping on this one. We're going Ohio Grassman because I've been to Ohio a lot.
Yes.
Ohio Grassman's a nice one.
Yeah.
So define Ohio grassman. Is it a man made of grass?
No, it's supposedly a Bigfoot-esque type creature.
Do they have grass in Ohio?
No, that's why I want to bring this up. I've been to Ohio a bunch of times. There's a bunch of fields. There's a lot of wide open area, and I if there's something moving around, it's sticking to ravines. It's sticking to, and if somebody caught it out in the grass, it was probably pooping or something.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
But,
And that's survival too, right?
Yeah, well, and I'm not saying that there isn't one. Just being in that area, it's like Western Kansas, right, where you have all these fields. So
Of
for
dirt.
something, it depends on if it's just been plowed. Yeah. There's a large amount of open area, and during the daytime, I would think that would force creatures to be nocturnal. You'd have to, if you're trying to get around and not be seen, it has to be something at night. What do you-
Unless they have the capability of
camouflage?
cloaking or traveling between dimensions.
I
So on the Grassman, I've heard a couple different things. There is the Ohio Grassman, but I think there's a couple other instances around the world of what people call Grassman. And I just want to get your guys' general thoughts on how you picture the Grassman, because I've heard of its fur can imitate grass, like look like grass.
Okay.
People
They're
have
camouflage
seen
in.
grassmen that have been described that way, and that's how they get that name. Or they use the grass to build shelters that they
That's interesting.
live in. And I know
I haven't heard
that
that.
grass is subjective because we all think of our lawn with grass, but
No, I
they're
think I like
called,
the-
all grasses can.
Yeah, I think I like the brown tall grass.
like nature grass,
Yeah.
natural grass you see in some people's landscape that good God, mow your yard. Like, oh no, that's part of it. This is so it's protected. That's real, but I think they're using that to help camouflage themselves. That would be my opinion. Using their natural habitat, their natural surroundings to keep themselves at low visibility. So that's what I and again, I don't know much about the Ohio grassman, but that's what I get from that.
Now, is the Ohio grassman considered?
That's cryptic as a corn. To me, would be considered like a grassman.
Go ahead, I'm listening.
Good.
Okay, so I was asking him, and he
I
was,
know, but I'll listen.
I was still listening.
Is the Ohio grassman considered aggressive in nature,
I
like some
thought-
of the others, or is it benign?
I haven't heard of any grassman attacks.
Okay, so
Have
I thought
you?
I
Have
thought
you?
it was more like the Momo, and I could be completely wrong on that. So go
I
ahead
think
and
it's the
tell me what
same height as a Momo.
like a
So-
7 foot, 8 foot range.
6.5 to 8 foot range. They're stocky. And if you'll be able to show the cryptids of the corn who are out of Ohio, their logo is a cryptid in the corn, which is generally corn's a little bit taller than grass, so that creature is pretty big. But
So that's a corn man, not a grassman.
yeah, it's a cryptid anyways. But that's where they're from, which will be going out there October 2nd. I think they're, from what I've seen, and maybe we need to hit them up. I didn't think about that since that's their background area. I didn't know if they were that aggressive. I know the Momo and we'll be talking about some other ones that are aggressive that are kind of filling that Midwestern cryptid
Yeah, they
area.
just seem to, the smaller ones seem to be more aggressive from what little research I've done.
I think that's also subjective from the viewer's standpoint, because
fair.
someone sees this and is the type of person like Larry that is terrified of everything. They're going to feel that the thing's aggressive, whether the thing's aggressive or not.
So like it turned and looked at it.
And I was just
and took
picking
a
on
step.
Larry there, but if somebody's afraid of the situation, they're going to feel like it's an aggressive thing, whether it is or not.
Okay, all right, I like
That's
that.
fair.
That's fair. Yeah, I'm a
So I
bitch.
think that any cryptid, Bigfoot, or any cryptid encounter could be described in many different ways, just dependent on the person that's encountering
Encountering
it.
So, have you guys ever heard of the Fizzle Goblin from the Mississippi River Basin Delta? not basin, but the Mississippi
Mississippi
River.
Delta area.
No, the Mississippi River.
Like what part of the river?
Like the Ozarks area, like eastern Missouri.
So something that lives on the banks.
Mm-hmm.
It's considered small,
So-
green.
Supposedly, it was a kid that was drowned by its parents in the river and transformed into like this little goblin thing, and now it lures kids to the river and
So you think it's more of a supernatural?
fizzle. But it takes on the
physical-
It
appearance
sounds
of
like Jason from Camp Crystal Lake.
Oh yeah, but it takes on the appearance of
Of a
like
goblin.
of a goblin, like you know what I mean, like Harry Potter type.
So
Goblin.
what would be the appeal to go down and talk to a goblin in the river if you're
Well,
a kid?
it supposedly lures kids, like saying fizzle, like it's not aggressive and all that kind of stuff, and then it takes them and drowns them.
Would you consider that a
Tall tale?
or I mean, is that a cryptid or is
I
that
would
a supernatural creature?
I would
Or is
consider it a cryptid.
supernatural?
It just depends. You can call paranormal something specific. A lot of people define paranormal as ghosts, but how I define it, how I think you guys define it, paranormal is an encompassing term.
Yes.
Yep.
So cryptid could define an undiscovered creature, but it also could define any creature that has supernatural abilities. So I would say that it definitely could fall under the cryptid category, but it also could just be under the
I like how you
faith
stick
folk
up for your friends.
category.
Well, and it also could
I
be
agree.
It
Like
also
the fae
could-
folk or
Yeah.
legends, lore, myths.
could
And,
also
you know, it could be cryptid, I guess.
could also be a bullshit story because no one's caught it on camera.
But so
And no one
cryptid,
survived it.
cryptid. There's not a hard line there, but there is a line there
You
that
go crypto.
it's a
cryptozoology.
creature, whereas what he's describing is a kid that died, a human that died, and came back as something else,
But we-
or is
that-
able to project itself as
Like-
something
well,
else.
So this
Be
this,
like a
this,
Wendigo.
this story we're being told. Is there any documentation that kids have been lured and the kids have been, because kids go to creeks all
I
the
mean,
time and do stupid stuff and get themselves in trouble, right?
From what I've read, it's from like the early settler times.
Okay.
So like, there's no newspapers or
So it's more like
publications.
more like an urban
Yeah.
legend myth.
Yeah, kind
So
of like
it
the Ohio
sounds to-
Grassman's an urban
yeah.
legend.
It sounds to me closer to a story you tell kids to keep them away from the river
That's what I think.
than like Bigfoot stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I just wanted to get your guys' opinion. I apologize that it might.
Well,
Don't apologize.
No apology.
Other than going out of order. You know.
Yeah, what the fetch is that about?
I don't know if you guys do it. Our friends that we hang out with a lot, we tell him every time we see him to stop apologizing for
Yeah.
shit he doesn't need to apologize for.
Well, we have a complex. That
How
we
do
gotta
I
get
know
over,
that I don't
sure.
need to apologize for it if I think I need to apologize for
We'll
it?
let you know.
We'll let you know.
Be like, hey, you need to apologize for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Dude, way out of line. Shut up. Yeah.
The OG, what's your cryptid?
Well,
The physical goblin.
mine's gonna,
Goblin.
Fizzle.
mine's gonna be Bigfoot, obviously. And I'm starting to get really intrigued with Dogman for other reasons from the last week's getaway in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm starting to get some little
Red
pull
Rocket.
draws toward that I want to go see.
Draws.
Draws. Something's drawing to me drawing me to
So
that.
when you say Bigfoot, is there a particular area?
I think, well, obviously Oregon is huge for me, but I would say
Northern
Momo. I love the skunk ape, but the Momo is really the reason Momo is huge with me right now because my wife has a nursing friend that we try to get on the podcast that seen a Bigfoot up close, and when you were talking about the ravine, they were collecting cans on the side of a dirt road, tin cans for money when she was a teenager, and this ape-like creature was hiding in the ditch on the side of the road. You know how you have the little...
Yeah.
It was hiding there. And then when she got close, probably 12 to 15 feet away, it stood up. It looked at her and walked right into the woods. And really, and my wife said she absolutely believes this is what she saw. It was a Bigfoot. And she tells the story. Unfortunately, I cannot get her on the show right now because of what we do. The chumming is something that...
Ooh, maybe you should invite her to the Paracon. Well, we get our story at the Paracon.
Would love to do that. And
We can sponsor a ticket.
I'm gonna have
for
my
it.
wife reach out to her again, but
I'll give you guys
first,
tickets.
and I've talked to the lady over the phone, and she's pretty genuine. So
But to narrow it down, you're talking about the Momo monster,
Yeah.
the Missouri monster. That's
Yeah.
6
Anything-
to 7 foot or 6 to 8 foot.
yeah, but my whole thing is cross the board when it comes to Bigfoot.
Well, you got to pick one right now. That's
Well,
we're
right
going
now
with
it's got to be Momo, man. It's got to be a Momo.
Jason.
We talked about Momo a lot that first night that I came
Yeah.
over to your house.
That's right.
Well,
Yeah.
we got an author that we're going to be talking to that's local to KC.
Yeah.
That it has 5 books on Bigfoot.
yeah,
It's
it has a
local.
casting of a hand and a foot.
Is it Carter?
Yes.
Yeah. Have
Carter
you,
Bouchard.
Yes.
yeah, have you talked to
I
him?
had him booked for 2020 Paracon and then was going to shut down. I met him at Glidden's Paracon.
He is at the Missouri.
He
Yeah.
he texted me tonight, and I showed him some dates. Good guy, got all those
Got
books. Haven't
beautiful
signed
hand
them.
cast that he got over.
Yeah.
I haven't honestly seen all his stuff. I just know of him because I did book him, but then it all fell apart.
Yeah.
He actually where he got the experience and the stories that his books are on. It's a place I used to run around and go fishing and hunting in. It's called James A. Reed Road.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
In Missouri, so it'd be
Yeah.
considered a
That's right
Momo
there.
monster.
and had no idea. I was running like a stupid kid, doing stupid kid stuff in the woods. So, really intrigued with that for sure.
He must have been too ugly to kidnap.
Well, yeah. I was a horrible looking kid. Are you kidding me?
My turn?
Your turn. We're waiting.
All right, so I'm going to tell a personal story.
Oh,
And these stories are popping up. These type of stories, well, several have for several years, but they're more rare. They're not as prolific as lots of other cryptid stories. So I, personally, at the place that I live now, have seen a stick figure creature in my backyard.
Okay, wait a minute. Wait. We're not talking about a little stick insect, little
No.
guys you see in the woods.
This was a 3.5 foot tall creature that was like what a kid would draw as a stick figure.
So have you seen the?
Like on that guy's shirt.
Yeah,
right
a lot
there.
like that.
That's how you get kicked in
Yeah.
the face.
There's a few others out there. There's a few other stories out there of people seeing them. There's a few other things. There is a video, and the video is close to what I saw, except for the video has what looks like sheets over the creatures. Have you guys? It's one of the most
Where it's
famous
walking
videos out
like
there.
this?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
in the front yard in
Yeah.
in California.
But it
What
has
I
no-
saw is like that without the sheet over the creature.
But the one in the video had no top half. It was like just basically legs, right?
Well, this was, yeah, it was, I mean, it was hard to tell. It was under
Yeah.
a sheet or whatever. So, in 2017, I was sitting on my back porch, and I had my tablet in my hand. It was raining. And because of the rain, I think is the only reason I saw it, and I'll get into why. I was sitting on my back porch. My wife was in New York, and I was on my tablet looking up research for a podcast that I was just about to record that night, later that night. I don't remember what time of year it was, but it wasn't winter. I think it was probably about now, spring, maybe May, June. And it was dark out, and it was raining, and it was thunderstorming, and it had hail, but the hail had stopped. I was sitting there on the tablet, and I got done, and I stopped, and I stood up. At my house, I have about a half an acre, and the porch is on the, well, it would be the east side. So it's on the side of the house, and I could see into the backyard. And there's a shed back there. There's a garage, and the neighbors. That neighbor's on a different street. There's a half of a fence there, and at the very back of my house is another yard, and around this tree is that person's house that had a light on their porch, which illuminated their yard and the very back half of my yard. And I stood up, and I was looking out towards the straight back from my house, and from my shed, from behind my shed, which was overgrown behind it, there was a bunch of vines and just overgrown crap. I saw this thing come out, and there was It lasted maybe 10 seconds. It was walking slow, but it was walking, and it walked behind the garage that was on the neighbor, which the light source was past that. And the reason I was able to pick up on it so quickly is because the rain wasn't hitting it. The rain, there was like a shield around it. There was like a dome, egg-shaped shield around it that I could see the rain hitting and bouncing off of. So that would made it a lot easier to spot. But the shape of what I saw in there looked like a stick figure just walking, and it disappeared behind the tree. But it was backlit with the rain and the force field, or whatever you want to call it, that if it wasn't raining I wouldn't have been able to see. It's like it wanted to show me because it waited to that moment. So that's what I saw. But stick figures are something that other people have reported. There's a few other people that have reported just seeing what looks like a drawn, even during the day, like a white stick figure walking across the beach. I read one story. But there, it was about 3.5, maybe 3 feet tall, not 3.5 feet tall.
Pretty small.
Yeah. Shorter than a regular fence, but not small like you think stick figure would be. So yeah, I haven't seen it again. I've put trap cameras up back there just to see. I haven't caught anything else.
Okay, so I was going to ask questions. I'm going to do one more. Go do my pair chum. First question.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to follow up with another question. So the first question is part one.
He's totally got you down.
It'll come back.
Why didn't you go after it? Why didn't you go grab your iPod because it has a camera on it? Or
so
phone?
it was raining really hard.
Yeah, and
He's too sleepy and melt.
Electronics and water don't go well together.
Well, so I wouldn't have thought of that. So honestly, I can answer this from experience, from my own experience, which I know you've done a little paranormal investigation.
very little compared to you. Yes,
But when things happen, you don't automatically think of that kind of
right.
stuff.
No, I
You
understand.
kind of, you're not as scared.
You're absorbing.
You're not as scared as most people think
Yeah.
you would be.
Yeah, you are.
But well, that's
Some people.
No, you're trying to figure out what you're seeing, right?
But
you're
yeah, so I mean, plus, I do have a pretty good control over my fight or flight, but it's still an unknown. I wasn't worried about getting wet. I wasn't thinking, oh, this thing might attack me. But I can't say there wasn't a hesitation, like, do I go after something I don't know?
okay. So my follow-up question: do you regret not following it
Sure, I do.
since you haven't seen it?
Yeah. I never felt threatened from it. I didn't get a threatening feeling from it, and I feel like I have a pretty good sense of my gut feeling and following it, and I have very good intuition. So I don't, and I also have a really strong empathic ability that I've figured out that I think if it wanted to intimidate me, if it was trying to intimidate me, I would have picked up on that. I think it's two different thoughts that I have. One, it didn't realize in the moment that that I would be able to see the rain hitting what was around it, so it didn't think that I could see it. Or two, it just, for whatever reason, wanted to show itself to me at that moment, and I wouldn't have been able to see it if I went back there anyways, because there wasn't any light source or there wasn't anything I could have seen it with.
Okay. And the reason I ask this is because we are recording this. I can
You're on the
attest.
spot.
It reminds me of a little story that I went through. I was on my back deck, and behind my house is a lake, and I was just out there sipping on my tea, and not drinking, just drinking tea. And I saw this light ball about as big as, I would say twice as big as a basketball, come down like this, cross the lake toward my house, did one of these numbers and went right back and it disappeared. Not for 1 second did I ever think, get your camera up and record this. I was just like, wow, look at that.
Call your paranormal friends and
that's really unusual.
Was it dark?
It was getting dark.
Yeah.
It was just starting to get dark.
Most of the time, and this doesn't have anything to do with your thoughts of doing it or not, but one of the reasons why things aren't picked up is, even though everybody thinks that the cameras in their phones are great, when it's dark or getting dark, they're
they're
not.
really.
It wouldn't have came out anywhere near what you saw.
could still see. I mean, it was still. It wasn't dark. It was getting gray. You know, it's just dark. And then when I'm like, it just didn't occur to me. I was just like, well, that's really interesting. It just didn't click with me.
I'm all for personally for me.
Absolutely.
I'm all more for taking in the moment.
Yeah.
If in the moment, if I thought about grabbing my phone, I probably wouldn't, because I wouldn't want to look away from it. I know you could just grab your phone out of your pocket.
Yeah. No, it's one of those weird.
I would rather sit there and experience it for the moment than miss it by trying to figure out how to capture
I really understand that.
I'm going to go with your excuse, because that sounds way better than I just forgot to pull out my phone because
well,
I was
I mean,
in the moment.
I can't. I didn't even think of it at the
didn't
time.
even occur to me till
No, and that's
several hours later. I'm like,
and that's one of the
What
things
did you-
that people don't understand. Like we've had off air topics about it. Like you can even have it in your hand,
Yeah.
and you're looking at it, and you forget to go.
Yeah.
Like it's like most of really famous footage. If you actually get involved and check it, it was because it was by accident. Somebody had like turned.
Oh, yeah.
And it
Just
happened to catch it.
Yeah.
Because
that's real.
when you're
Or
in
there's
that
somebody
moment,
on their bike and they have a GoPro on the handlebars, and that picks up something as they're
Yeah,
going by.
Yes. When you're in the moment, we'd love to all say we're all professional about it, but I don't know why, but the camera is like one of the last things. Like you're enjoying what you have, and you're like, oh wait a minute.
No, I think Jason hit it though, right? You don't want to miss the moment, and you're trying to like, wow, look at that! Isn't that amazing? You know, I've done dead deer hunting, like this big, majestic down at coal camp, big majestic deer. I mean, just for down at coal camp anyway, real sticky area to hunt, and just you're like, look, and you got your gun right in your hand. You're look at that thing is absolutely stunning. Then it just like, oh, you idiot. You're here to hunt deer. Why didn't you put it down? You know, you do get caught up in the moment. So, and that's why I was asking that question.
There's also the aspect of that whatever it is may have more control over this situation than you are aware.
That's true.
So you may not. A reason you might not be thinking about getting a camera is because it doesn't want you to think about that. It's
Ultrasound.
mesmerizing you, or doing something like that. Or it's not. There's a possibility that what I saw was just something that was projected, like nobody else with me could see it. I know that there's also lots of times where people have been together, they see stuff. There's so much intricate possibilities for all encounters that it's really hard to break it down to why.
Well, I think your Stickman story is the first one I've heard. I have seen the video, which we talked about earlier, but I've never heard someone talk about their. So that's really intriguing to me. And the reason, and Jason, because I wanted people to understand that, it's just you're just in the moment, and that's not the first thing that pops to your head. Mm-hmm. But the second thing is because I've been down that road. It was a different situation, but
Be caught in the moment.
Yeah, just being caught in the moment, and just like wow.
I think, honestly, what I was was like, I was in the moment because the podcast episode that I was working on was a conspiracy episode. It didn't have anything to do with paranormal. So in my mind, I wasn't even thinking about paranormal things necessarily. I was talking about all the mysterious deaths that surround the Clintons. That's that episode I was recording.
I have that videotape.
That's a multiple.
Yeah.
The Clinton Chronicles.
Episodes,
I have that.
Like 32, 38. There's a ton.
I think I had close to a list of 100 that night.
Oh.
Of both.
Well, yeah, if you kind of split off.
Weird people that died. So, anyways, we don't have to
7
get into
degrees.
That, but
How they found letters much later.
The most famous one, I think, is somebody got shot in the head, back of the head twice,
and it was
put into a suitcase and thrown into a river, and that was suicide.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go with another Bigfoot cryptid from Bluff Creek, California, dated back in 1967. It's probably the best film footage we have of a cryptid.
Oh.
It's a Patterson Gimli film.
Yeah.
Wasn't the first encounter, but probably the famous that really kicked off that craze.
Well, the first one caught on film like
Yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, because
The most iconic film.
I would make the argument that it's still
the best.
the best film
Yeah.
footage that we have.
I mean, because there's stuff that predates it, Portlock, Ape Canyon. There's footprints before, but that they were the first ones that started. That Bigfoot got taken from the cast, which I know someday that happens to have a reproduction of a cast signed by.
Like Gimlin himself,
Yeah.
right?
Just a little bit in there.
He's very proud
Yeah,
to have that
it's-
footprint. Very excited about it.
Got it from a very famous person too,
I did.
Russell Accord.
Russell Cord
Got to talk with him.
did.
But that footage is still being reviewed.
Didn't
from
realize I
19
hugged him, by the way. I'm gonna have to apologize next time.
You give out random hugs, so
I
you don't
only,
know.
I don't remember doing it, but I was told I did, so I kind of felt
I
bad.
see.
about it.
Wow,
I think it was a bro
lot.
hug.
I didn't realize how much was coming out.
Hey, no, that thing comes out way faster than what you realize.
Wow, you're sleeping here tonight.
But yeah, so
But,
but they've named it Patsy because they realized it was a female.
the big hanging, swinging breasts.
Yeah. Once they realized they got original copy of the film and enhanced it, yeah. And they don't think it's probably not taller than 6 and a half.
foot. Yeah, they didn't think it was over 6 foot. Yeah, they went back out
There's
and
probably
recreated.
300 to 400 pounds based off the depression. Well, maybe more because you have the cast. You saw how thick that
Yeah,
cast
yeah,
is
yeah.
in rock.
Yeah.
That's a decent heavy creature.
I think you're over 400 pounds if you're doing that. I just think you are. And you're right. They went out and they recreated it and got the dimension. It was just a little bit over 6 feet tall. Originally they were thinking 7 to 8 feet, but not so.
No matter what, I would,
Yeah.
And they
But you
there's
know
more
what?
footage.
A big orangutan's a big orangutan. And
Yeah.
a little orangutan I don't want to mess with in the wild.
Well, and they actually, a lot of people don't know, they actually tried to chase it. Like, they filmed it. Like, they're going, like, a lot of people, like, was it Bob Patterson that was talking about it? Like, they started filming it on horseback. He hopped off his horse, climbed over a log trying to get to it. And because it saw as they're filming, and it kept on walking into the woods. They tried to get across the creek and try to get it, but it was just gone. So again,
I didn't know that either.
yeah, no, there's some really interesting documentation on like they're talking about because it's a 16 millimeter handheld camera. I mean, it was pure. They were out there trying to catch it and caught that. And a lot of people go, well, just a guy in a monkey suit. Muscle suits weren't invented
Yeah.
until the late 90s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
They didn't have rug. They put rugs on people.
Because Planet of the Apes came out in like 1966.
Right.
That was nominated for like some of the best costumes. You look at that movie and go, "Oh, that does not look anything like this
Yeah.
creature that
Not-
swung
not
its
even
arm."
close.
And
Yeah.
so that's one of my.
I think
cryptids.
the argument of the monkey suit is equal to the argument of, well, why don't we have high def footage of UFOs? Because we're not thinking about grabbing our phone at the time. Or if we do, if you think about you watch anything in the sky, a plane, and you grab your phone, by the time you dial in on it and get the little bitty light that's on it, it's gone.
Yeah, you're not gonna find it.
But
That's right there.
that was my.
But the guy that got shot in the Bigfoot costume didn't help anything.
So my next one is going to be the Jiba Fofi.
Are you looking
Jiba
these up on
Fofi.
the internet?
Yeah,
It's not even you don't
This is
even
supposed
know
to
it
be ones that you like,
Yeah,
I
right?
do like this one.
because you found it.
I've known about it.
Okay.
How do you spell it then without looking?
JBA space
Sophia.
FOFI. Jiba Fofi. And it's the giant Congo spider that's supposedly like 2 to 4 feet leg span that people have disappeared after sighting this thing. Like, can you imagine being out in the Congo and seeing a 4-foot spanned
I don't
spider?
see the strength of that pulling away a full-grown person.
Once you're liquefied, you're not that.
I mean, but you got to get to that point.
Well, it depends on how strong the venom is, right?
Yeah.
Like most spiders are venomous.
I mean,
but they don't.
if you're trekking out there and you get bitten and die, that's one thing. How do they know they sighted it if that's happening? You're saying that the report is
there's-
that people sighted it and then they disappeared.
No, there's been reports of people just disappearing. But
Yeah, that's what I took.
There's
Once you
also
seen it,
been
you-
reports.
The way you said it,
Yeah, I know.
you
We totally
reported
blame you
a
on
sighting
the
and then
lady.
they
Thank you for
disappeared.
correcting me.
Gaslighting us this bad.
But there's also reports of people
But
citing these things.
I'm going to be honest. Where I would lead credence to that is there is a large innate fear of spiders, and if you look at what we know of spiders, there's no reason for us to have a large innate fear of spiders. They're not big, very few are deadly, but some reason they freak us out. Now, if there
There's a word for that next.
Arachnophobia.
No, I'm not talking about the term of spiders. It's in storytelling. It's a characterization of a certain type of element within a story, and I can't remember because snakes are also that.
Yeah.
The archetype. It's an archetype. There's a reason for it, and it's probably because of the venomous ones. And I mean
But if there was one that was,
they're unsettling to look at, unless you're into spiders, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, some people like them. Some people want to hug a
Well,
Bigfoot.
I don't know if I want to go up to a 4
Well, there is
spider.
like the camel spiders, right, over there. And, you know, our buddy Juan's been over there, and he's seen them. They actually, the guys that was under him, brought one into the tent and started jacking into one, and it launched himself, and they hit it, and he went flying toward Juan, and Juan got pissed off. And
Yeah, but you're talking about the camel spiders are only maybe a foot.
no, they get bigger than that. And if they bite you, it paralyzes you. That's why they call them the camel spiders. So they bite camels, and they come back and they feed off them while they're alive. So I can see if this has the same kind of, and I'm not sure if I'm staying on track with you, but they do get pretty big, and they're freaking monstrous looking. They're absolutely hideous.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we're saying like if it's even bigger than that, if it's
yeah.
like
That's
2
horrible.
to 2, yeah,
Yes.
I could see why people would be going, oh, because if the venom could paralyze you, it may take a couple days for you to be dehydrated by one. But I mean, you're pretty good.
You're snack.
Technically, a spider for its body weight's like 100 times its body weight.
Yeah, but if they disappear, that means they're gone. How long does it take a body to actually
what if
disappear?
they're like a trap spider? Like they drag them into a pit.
Like, I can understand if somebody if they go out into the jungle and they die from a bite and the thing feeds on them there, they may never be found right there. But I don't see the spider taking them anywhere. I don't see the spider
You're not saying
eating
they're
them to
strong
the
enough
point
to-
they're not going to be seen as a skeleton or something there
Or they get
to be identified as the guy that wandered out into the jungle.
That's
What
why
about
they're
ants?
encrypted.
ants eating them all the way up afterwards. I don't know.
So, I mean, I understand the sightings,
Not the bodies disappearing.
but not the people
Totally
disappearing being attributed to those spiders.
Because there's a lot of things in the jungle that can
Yeah.
get
Make
you
you disappear.
and drag you into the one would make you disappear for sure.
OG?
But I don't think we have to worry about that here.
I don't think so. I think we're pretty safe, other
Never
than
know.
whatever's in the bedroom. OG, what do you got?
So we're going to Momo. So obviously, I'm still going to stay with cryptids because that's what
I think
we're
that's
talking
what we're
about.
talking about.
Yeah, we're still staying with cryptids. So I'm really starting to get.
You have no right to say Jesus to somebody else.
Why?
Mr. Rabbit Hole that goes nowhere, completely outside the parking lot. Not even
Was
in
that
the game.
commentary on... What was that commentary on?
That we're going to talk about cryptids.
No,
Ghosts.
you said Jesus. But why... Never mind.
Yeah, why did?
We don't have to dig into that right now.
Yeah, we do. I'll knock you out. Say it.
Because you said we're going to stick to cryptids.
No, I
The
go,
way,
no,
you,
I need
the way you said it was... He forgot we were talking about cryptids because he was drunk, but you have nothing you can potentially say about
I'm sorry.
that.
I'm not. I'm not.
Don't apologize for it. I'm giving you shit for it.
Yeah, but one thing we can say, I'm not passing out.
Yeah.
So, during the middle of the podcast. So saying that,
Somebody fed us, though, to be fair. Anyways, that's your
Larry, I'm just giving you shit.
I don't make people drink.
Yeah, you do. Shots.
Well, sometimes
Yeah, anyways,
if I'm having a good time.
you're having a good time.
I would like to talk about Dogman. I'm really being drawn to them, especially some of the stuff we heard about down in Little Rock, Arkansas, about the territorial fight between Bigfoot and Dogman and the bodies they found up in the tree and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of the name of that piece of the land out there. Matter of fact, I think a friend of ours,
Land Between
Drunken
Lakes?
Cryptids, are going to be bringing it up on their next
LBL,
LBL.
Land Between Lakes.
Yeah.
It's a real
Okay.
debate as far as how far back references to Dogman type creatures to Bigfoot type creatures there are. Because you could say that Bigfoot type creatures are a mirror of past human iterations, past like caveman type creatures and stuff like that. But Dogman creatures have been around and worshipped
By Egypt,
since
yeah.
Egyptian times or before, which
Anubis.
predates a lot of other things. I mean,
Well, I know the
the beginning of the
Yeah.
of the
Greek mythology.
Egyptian world is farther away from Cleopatra than we are from Cleopatra in time. That whole timeline, it's really hard to say which is actually first. There's one thing to say that which is more prolific in sightings, but as far as the history of them, I think it's really hard to debate between the two, which is older.
I just thought it was so fictional that it just didn't make, a dog that's walking up like a werewolf or a little guru, if you will. It just didn't make. I'm like, come on, God, that's so far fetched. But now that I'm starting to hear about this, Land Between Lakes and the territory, and I'm just like, maybe there is.
I mean,
something.
technically, the Beast of Bray Road was thought to be like a Dogman-like creature.
Right.
One of the things that we kind of forget, like a lot of the early tales, we automatically assume they meant Bigfoot when they said hairy mountain devils, or that they don't say it's an ape, it's or a human, like it's a devil. Like,
Yeah.
there's a bunch of different. So I mean, there could have been them seeing dogmen and referring to them as devils because they're canine, they're a hybrid looking thing. And that's the devil. And we just assumed, well, it was in the same area that must have been a Bigfoot.
Before you guys go, you guys said in October you're going to do some Bigfoot stuff?
October 2nd.
Yeah, it's a Bigfoot jamboree.
We should do this together because I've been doing some research. You can go back through newspaper articles through the Library of Congress back to the 1800s, and I've done this for every state for Bigfoot, wild man, blue man. There's so many different descriptions, and in Missouri specifically, they called them the blue men for a while before Momo. And we should go through because I have all these articles saved, hundreds of them. We should go through them and see which ones they sound more like
A Dogman
or Bigfoot
That would be
something
fun.
else.
That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, because
I've been meaning to do something with all that research because at work, hopefully nobody at work, my boss sees this, but at work I'll just sit there sometimes and just you can go through and search any term and get thousands of newspaper articles that say that word in there and go through there and read the articles. And I found out once that in Kansas somebody shot some cannons at a tornado to try to stop them. That was a fun little search thing.
Fantastic.
But I have hundreds and hundreds of articles from pre-1950s to mid-1800s of wild man sightings and Bigfoot sightings and blue man sightings and stuff.
that's what got me into, I started looking up, because I was like, oh, Kansas doesn't have any Bigfoot sightings. The fort talked about, soldiers were talking about hairy men that were in the river ravine, and you didn't go in there.
Right.
Basically told them to ignore them. If you saw them, just leave them be. They won't do anything, but don't go in there because they're aggressive. And I thought that was interesting. That's a military article about it from the Lansing Times early.
Something else that I did was look up giant skeletons.
That's another topic.
There's hundreds of articles on that too.
And the Smithsonian took them all.
So before we quit talking about the Dogman, let me ask every one of you, each one of you, don't give me the generic possible. Do you think Dogmen exist?
Me personally, up until recently, I would have said no. I think it's a mangy black bear. A black bear with missing most of its fur looks very dog-like, and I still wouldn't want to mess with.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
What about you, Jason?
I think that they have to be something more than a mammal that's undiscovered.
Okay.
Which is the same way I feel about Bigfoot. I think it's possible. I think that I'm trying to expand on more than just it's possible.
Right.
But I think the potential for it to be a real thing has merit, because I think it's the same as what I saw. I saw a stick figure walk across my yard.
No, you know what?
Yeah,
how people are like, yeah, you certainly did.
Yeah, you certainly did.
So you were.
Here's your helmet. He called the short bus for you.
I haven't drank anything or smoked anything that night. I was of clear mind at that moment.
That's
doesn't mean it's real, but I was.
Well, but like you said, it could be something projecting that image in your head, or your brain couldn't comprehend it.
I think there's a potential for all metaphysical, spiritual, cryptid, whatever you want to call them. I think there's a potential for all of them to be different, dependent on the viewer. I mean, it goes back to the old idea of, is that hair right there red to you? The same red to me?
Right.
I mean, it's all independent. I don't even know if you guys are real.
Yeah, we've had that conversation. Larry and I have several times. Like, what I'm seeing is not necessarily the same thing that Larry's seeing, or Parachum, excuse me. So Parachum, yes or no?
He's being quiet. Since
Yeah, he got his feelings hurt. Yes or
didn't
no?
have anything to say.
I would say yes, that it's
Plausible.
No, don't tell me possible. Yes or no? And if yes, why? If yes, why?
I interrupted him.
I would say yes, but I don't think that I would agree with Jason that it's something that we can explain in terms that we know how to explain it currently. I think it would be something that we don't fully understand.
Not a government experiment, or
I mean, it could be a government experiment, but it just because it looks like a dog doesn't mean it's a dog. Does that make sense?
yeah, but a dog-like walking bipedal creature is what I'm asking.
Yes, I think I think they do exist.
Okay, no,
But I don't know if I
You
would
don't know if they're
classify it.
metaphysical or physical type
yeah.
thing. Because I think there's a big spectrum of Bigfoot that can't put them all in one box. Some are probably a spiritual thing that people are seeing and they just assume. Versus there's foot tracks with dermal ridges and all that fun stuff.
So, I'll just mention I'm not trying to call this guy out, but I'm not calling him out. He had his own thing. It gave me a good perspective on changes in how people view things. So in the early days of the Paracon, I booked a guy named Scott Nelson. And he was on Rogan, he was on several different shows, he was part of the group that would go to the mountains in California that picked up the Sierra Sounds. He was part of that group.
Oh wow,
Oh, nice.
Okay,
And he was out of Lexington, Missouri. He was a linguist. And he wrote, he was
cunning
good friends with
linguist?
David Paulides, who did the 411 series. I had him at 2 of the Paracons. And I don't know why this changed. I have an idea as to why it may have changed, but so the first year I had him on, he played the Sierra Sounds and he talked about Bigfoot, and that was the second year of the conference. And very nice guy, great guy. I loved knowing him. I don't know what happened to him. I haven't been able to get a hold of him in years. I remember just a very distinct memory of after the conference. We had the conference at a sportsman club. There was this shooting range there. And we were standing on the porch that was elevated. And we were looking out over the trees. And he was standing there next to me and like 3 of my friends. And we were just talking about stuff. And he said, specifically, I don't want to quote him because it was so long ago. This was like 2012.
so paraphrase.
He said, there could be Bigfoot in that group of trees. There could be Bigfoot in that group of trees. Because in it, the way he believed Bigfoot is they were a metaphysical creature and they could be anywhere. He said that there could be Bigfoot there, there could be Bigfoot there, there could be Bigfoot there.
And you get a car.
2 years.
You get a car.
2 years later, I had him back at the conference because I took the 3rd year off, and the 4th year I came back and started organizing it again, and I had him out. His whole view. No, sorry, it was the 3rd year. It was 1 year later. I didn't. No, it was
2 years.
Sorry, I'm butchering this.
It was later.
The 3rd year I did not go to. I took the whole year off from the paranormal. My partner at the time kept the conference going. The 4th year, I got invited back to the conference by my friends that were still hosting the event, and they asked me to come back, and I started back on the conference on the 5th year. Anyways, he spoke at the 4th year, so it was 2 years later. His whole view on Bigfoot changed. He didn't believe they were everywhere. He thought they were a flesh and blood creature that was in very small pockets around the world, and that they wouldn't be in that group of trees or that group of trees. Lots of things could have changed in that time. I know one major thing happened to him, and I don't know because I didn't ask him. He had a motorcycle accident that damaged his brain. And I don't know if that changed his perspective or if just time changed his perspective. But as far as I know, he hadn't been actually investigating Bigfoot in that time. So something changed. My point overall is life and thoughts and ideas and research can change dramatically in a very short amount of time.
True.
So your perspective, our perspective, can change from day to day of what we saw. What I saw, that stick figure, I feel like I'm remembering it right. I feel like I'm telling the story exactly the same way I did the first time. And I actually bet that for the most part, if you went back and played, because I told it on the show, it would be the same.
It was the same.
But it might be a little bit different. Yeah. It might be slightly different. I know my story of my dream waking life interaction with a demon-like creature has changed slightly because over time you remember things differently.
Or more context.
Context, but it's really, unless you write things down or record things in the moment, your brain will change things on its own.
Yeah. And we just covered that. When you're in the moment, you don't record or write things down.
So before we
So that was a long, drawn-out way to tell a story about how your perspective on Bigfoot or Dogman can completely change
and as
in a moment.
Evidence comes out, there are some people that they're solid said it's a flesh and blood creature.
And I actually called him out. I didn't call him out, but he was giving a presentation, and at the end of the presentation, the 2 years later, he was having people ask questions. I asked him. I said flat out, 2 years ago, he didn't even remember telling me that. Yeah. So I don't know. That's part of why I thought maybe the accident had something to do with it, because he didn't remember the conversation.
It's highly possible.
But it was a one-off conversation with a guy on a balcony 2 years before.
True.
But it was a profound difference. I was shocked by the difference in his idea of what a Bigfoot was.
So my naive thinking is, if something leaves a footprint, if it leaves DNA, if it leaves fur behind, blood. Which we're on a show that we just saw. If it's leaving that kind of evidence behind, to me, it's got to be physical. It's got to be flesh and blood. It can't be metaphysical. It just can't be.
Again,
but that's to say,
I think that's you're separating two things that don't have to be separate.
Yeah, because
it can be physical, but also metaphysical at the same time.
Exactly.
It could be physical, because if it's a metaphysical creature that can pass between what you call realms or dimensions or whatever you want to call it, doesn't mean it doesn't have to be a physical thing in the moment here, while it's here. So there's a lot of argument in. So I mentioned earlier in this episode that the definition of paranormal means different things to everybody, and people argue about it. in each little category of the paranormal is the same thing. In UFOs, there's the nut and bolt people, and there's the esoteric metaphysical people, and then there's all kinds of other people. But there's a lot of thought that the whatever you call UFO, if they're aliens, they could be interdimensional, but while they're here, while they are in what we are experiencing, they have to abide by the laws of physics while they're here. So while they're here, they have to be physical.
Okay.
So I could say that the same argument could be applied to Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's fair.
So if it's something that's metaphysical and spiritual that can just like hop to another dimension or hop to another plane or whatever, while they're here, they probably have to abide by the rules of the realm that they're in.
Wow. Okay.
So before we get to the next round, folks, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break to refuel and empty fuel. So we'll be right back.
Welcome back to the show. Jumping with the Spirits. Guest now? You're not really special anymore.
Really
Okay, I'm not
he's
special
really not
because I
even-
just
he's
yelled
really
at
not even
everybody.
a guest now either.
We have Jason,
More of a fixture.
OG, me, and Parachum. We're finishing up one more time around.
Yep.
I think we're talking about
Cryptids.
cryptids, yeah.
Yeah, we're talking about cryptids.
If I can think of something else besides, what I've been talking
What-
about.
go regional, man. Go regional.
So I can go
or lakes,
regional with
or
one.
locks.
I'm not
And
gonna go
there's not a lot to say on it, but there was a time that Larry and I went to look for this
I
cryptid.
remember that.
What?
Guns may have been involved.
This was this was pre-COVID, so this
Okay.
was pre-2020. We went to go look for Sinkhole Sam in Inman, Kansas, which
I
is
know
south
exactly
of
where that
Hutchinson,
I know where Edmund, Kansas.
or west of Hutchinson, somewhere out there.
West.
What the hell is this?
It's a
Sinkhole Sam.
serpent-like creature in a puddle, basically.
It's called a frog.
No,
it was a farm pond.
and when we say puddle, it was like the size of this room.
No, it was bigger than that. It was the size of
My
a-
apartment.
No, they don't know the perspective of your apartment.
A complex.
Know your audience, Larry.
Yeah, I don't know my
Wait till the
audience.
audio just version of this is
It's
we're all
fantastic.
pointing.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
It's going to be.
Decent sized farm pond. That's what it was. It was maybe 75 yards across.
Man-made?
There was a road that went around it.
Yeah, it was man-made.
It was probably man-made.
Okay.
It could have started as just.
A small pond.
I mean, it was Sinkhole Sam, right? So it was probably
Yeah,
a sinkhole.
I don't know who Sinkhole Sam is. I'll make
There
it
actually
tricky.
was a mural painted on the wall in the town that was dedicated to Sinkhole Sam. At least that's what it looked like.
Got to be kidding me. This is fantastic.
We drove out there, and it was serpent-like creature.
Okay.
During the middle of the day, farmland all around.
So it's a
I think there was a house maybe about a quarter mile away.
Yeah, not very far.
And, basically what we did is we drove out there, we looked at the pond, and Larry pulled out his .22 AR looking gun, which is just like a cheap little gun. It was 22, and we just decided, we're going to shoot at the pole that's in the middle of the lake. And that's what we did. We didn't see Sinkhole. We might have scared him. Sinkhole Sam.
Jesus Christ.
That was a fun day.
Were you guys, were you guys
Kansas.
drinking?
No, we weren't.
Were you
No,
smoking
you-
anything?
Nope.
No.
I didn't know the gun was there until he pulled it out.
Yeah, that's a Parachum thing.
I mean,
It's a
really,
22.
the only
It's
way
not
we
gonna hurt
could have
anybody.
investigated it was to sit on the side of the road and watch it. Which was the plan until the gun came out. And, 22's not loud, but once you start firing off shots, you don't want to hang around because the locals might be upset about it.
Okay.
What if you're shooting their pole on
So-
the lake?
The only real way to investigate it is to sit by the lake or to dive in the lake. And I'm not going to dive in
No.
the lake.
No, you know what's in
Especially in that moment.
Yeah, you know what's in there anyway.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
Sinkhole Sam. We may do that again, actually. We should do that again.
We should do that again.
So basically, it
sounds
was like
like
for a big old black snake.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Okay.
Well, let's
you won't
see.
be that far away. No.
He is described a worm-like creature
Is that close?
I
said
think it's
to
probably within an
inhabit
hour or
a
two.
portion of Inman Lake.
How do you spell Inman?
INMAN.
Because you got one.
The sinkhole is also known as. Oh wait, the creature is also known as Fappengurkle.
That sounds German.
Well, I don't. That's my wife telling me.
There's no solid explanation
It's
as to
not.
why or what that word means.
Hey, babe, you don't want to see a Fappengurk?
There's an article. See, there's an article about.
Oh, hold on.
Yeah,
When was that? When was that?
That's gonna be my new line,
find
man.
that article.
Yeah, find out
wanna see my
when that was
Fappengurk?
published.
Before Americans were colonized by Europeans, Kansas was covered in small streams, lakes, and rivers.
Yes, that's true.
Locals theorize that Sam is actually a prehistoric creature that lived in flooded underground caverns. So maybe that does connect to other things. It just
What-
looked like a little lake.
Well, western Kansas there's a huge aquifer, underground aquifer that they've tapped in and drained almost completely out because
When you say Western Kansas, we weren't in Western Kansas.
that's pretty
We were in
central.
we were in
Kansas.
Central
It
Kansas.
goes all the way. I mean, it goes
Yeah.
halfway.
So,
through Kansas.
are there any witnesses to the
I only
Fappengurk?
was questioning that because I feel like we were in the right place.
I mean,
but you
besides
never
earlier
know.
today, has there been real sightings of a Fappengurk?
Well, there's an article on it. I mean, what more?
Well, there's
than one?
another article that says monster turns out to be a plain old Foopengurkle.
plain old.
It's a Fappengurk. That's
Oh,
what-
now that we
Oh,
know
look,
that.
there's a drawing of this snake creature grabbing somebody out of bed. Look at that. Foopengurkle. I will give this drawing to Larry and he'll put it into the episode right here.
Yeah, send that to
It
me.
just looks like a big snake, like a water moccasin.
Well, I mean, it's a
No.
serpent creature, right?
You know what that looks like? That looks like venom.
Oh, a symbiote?
Maybe.
All right.
Foopengurkle. We need to do a little more research on Foopengurkle.
I'm totally using it on the pickup line on the wife.
That, to me, that sounds like a good 3-day weekend of us going around Kansas
Asking people about Foopengurkles.
Have you seen a Fappengurk?
and snipes. We're looking for snipes, pooping girl.
So, your turn or my turn?
I think it'd be. Is it back to me already? No, it's
Dogman Foopengurkle.
now it's me. Well, I thought I did Patsy's.
He did the little kid by the river before
Fizzle,
that.
fizzle. No, I did the Jubu Fofi.
Oh yeah, that's
Fofi.
right. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna pick Loch Ness Monster.
Oh,
One of the old cryptids predates America. There's records from a pope, not a pope, a bishop
Yep.
banning it. It attacked people.
Isn't it supposedly like the structure of is it a plesiosaur?
So the reason why they think
Yeah.
the plesiosaur came up was there was a TV show in search of.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, no, it's literally in search of. They had funded, not they didn't fund, but they were talking with a group that had went out and they had underwater cameras. It's one of the first times they ever scanned the whole lake. They didn't catch anything except one camera picked up a fin, and you can look it up, and it looks like a front fin of a plesiosaur. It doesn't match any known animals in the area.
Foopengurkle.
Yeah, miracle.
I actually have a very weird connection
To
to an idea
Oh.
of a theory of how Nessie started that I'm actually connected to, and I'll tell that story in a minute. But let's talk about Nessie first before I talk about
So
it.
there's a lot of theories that there are underwater caverns that actually make it from the lake out into the ocean. They've had seals pop into that loch. Depending on when the tides and water, but it is a very, very deep. It's 400 some meters.
They have huge
I
eels
have
in
to-
there.
Well, that's the big thing that I think of. Like people don't realize, like when we say eels, they think of like North American eels are
Yeah.
very snake-like. These things are massive.
Right.
They are 6 to 8 foot long, deep, and if they were to come up, they are carnivorous animals. So I mean, they eat things, but because that was a part of the problem that they're saying. Well, if there was a plesiosaur, there's not enough fish. That lake is actually fairly dead, other than the eels and a few other small species of fish. So something that big would have to be getting food from somewhere else,
So I don't know.
or cannibalistic.
I don't know much about a lot of things. But so say this inland freshwater lake has underground caverns that connect to the ocean. How does the lake then become freshwater and desalinized?
So it would be a freshwater spring that's keeping the lake, and the lake is actually pushing out into the ocean, not the ocean pushing in. Because it's not 400 foot deep around the.
There
wouldn't there
could
be
be
tide
there
sections?
could be some brackish water in there, but it would mostly be fresh water.
Okay, I'm just curious because I don't know much.
I spent 8 hours at Loch Ness Lake with the family. Did the boat ride, did the tour around the lake,
Damn.
did the castle thing. So here's my take. Another beast of fucking Bray Road. Another mother effing beast of Bray Road.
Might have been something 400 years ago.
Yeah.
Not something anymore.
But it's
There's still
about the
sightings
journey.
that pop up.
There's still.
That journey to Beast of Bray Road sucked. I'm going to be angry about it for a few more years.
I had
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
I think we need to go have either a yearly or bi-yearly.
No,
go back up
absolutely not.
there and just watch Dave rant and rave about the
Meltdown the
ticket.
whole time.
You know,
You know you're getting old when you just can't let stuff go. I just haven't been able to let that go yet.
I'd go back to that brew.
So to connect back to Nessie real quick, I have a funny story. So
Sorry.
that I'm actually connected a little bit to the idea of. I'm semi-connected because I had a conversation. I'm not connected in any way, really, but you'll see.
You're related
You'll
to
see
Nessie.
what I mean. So,
Scottish.
a few years ago, Larry was actually there for this.
I was.
We, on the Ectoplasm show, Josh and I, we became we had this idea that we wanted to open up a Dybbuk box together.
I had to throw that away.
I still have mine.
Aha.
I have no problems with it. So we had this idea that we wanted to open up Dybbuk box.
Why are you looking at me? You're not Parachum. So let's just
Yeah.
get on with the story.
That's fair.
So we had this idea, and it was through different discussions on the show. We were talking about different things, and online you can buy anything. You can buy anything that's called a Dybbuk box. And funny story: some people at Malvern Manor came in and left Dybbuk boxes at Malvern Manor. Weird things get left there all the time. We could do a whole show with Josh about weird things that has happened that are non-paranormal at Malvern Manor. But anyways, it was a weird coincidence because Josh and I were talking about opening a Dybbuk box for the show. And you can go online and you can buy all the eBay, Etsy, all these places. They have these things that they claim are Dybbuk boxes.
Unless it's endorsed by us, we don't
Yeah.
believe it.
Well, I'm not stupid, so I knew that what we probably were going to buy was bullshit. But I was looking for the best option, right? Like I was looking for the best option. And what ended up happening is during that time, which is an odd coincidence, somebody left 3 Dybbuk boxes at Malvern Manor. And that was a whole bust because Larry and I went up. You were with me, right?
Yeah, and we were
So we
supposed
went
to
up
open
there.
them.
We were going to open them. We recorded a whole show and videotaped it. And because of the wax seal, Josh couldn't tell. They had actually already been opened.
The paranormal group had opened them.
I still have one of those. I gave one to Larry. Josh had one. And I sent one to one of our viewers. But that's not how I connect to Nessie.
Yeah.
So during that
Fair
time, when I was looking for a Dybbuk box, I came across a listing on eBay that said it was a Boleskine House Dybbuk box found in the floorboards after the fire. Boleskine House is a house that was owned by Aleister Crowley and Led Zeppelin that's on Loch Ness.
Wow.
So the claim was, and I'm not just going off the eBay listing. I talked to the owner several times. We had correspondence over and over and over again.
I remember that.
It was claimed that he personally pulled that box that was sealed under the floorboards of Boleskine House out of the house after the fire. And he was selling it on eBay as a sealed box.
Holy cow.
So, and it was like $150. And I was like, oh, well, if it's real, that's a fucking great artifact, right? Like, even if it's not like the story alone. The reason I bring this, I didn't end up buying it. The guy opened it, and there was stuff in there that was dated later. So I don't actually believe his story that he grabbed it out of there. He was honest with me that he didn't believe that it was from the house. Anyways, I bring this up because of Aleister Crowley. There's a lot of theory that Aleister Crowley, while he owned the Boleskine House, while he was there, he was famous for starting rituals and not finishing them and closing them. He did it at the pyramids. He did it here and there in all kinds of places. He would conjure these things, and then he wouldn't close the portals that they came through. Because the Boleskine House is on Loch Ness, there is the idea that Aleister Crowley doing some sort of ritual, which was some crazy sex magic thing that was not related to Nessie, but he opened some stuff that he never closed because he didn't do that. He didn't care about that. And that is where Nessie came from.
All the modern sightings of Nessie, the water ripples.
That he opened something.
I would believe that more than a creature.
And it's still open there because he never closed anything he ever did because he didn't finish the rituals he did.
That reminds me of the original Hellboy.
And in a weird way, because I'm not really connected to Aleister Crowley, but I went down this road trying to buy this box that was connected to a house, that was connected to him, that was connected to Nessie. That Nessie could be some kind of creature that came through because Aleister Crowley didn't finish his sex magic.
When was Aleister Crowley supposedly living in that house?
So Aleister Crowley was prolific from the early 1900s to like the 1950s, I believe.
So when was the first?
Don't quote me on that, but it's that time period. It was not earlier than that, and it was not later than that.
When was the first sighting of Nessie?
Long before that.
1600s.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily that he is responsible for all of it, but there may be a portal open that he didn't close because he was attached to it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's interesting. So are we?
I still have that Malvern Manor Divic box. You want to play with it?
No, I'm cool.
Yeah.
not my gig, man.
Why did you get rid of yours?
Because of me.
He asked me to.
Because he's having too many problems. I mean, dude,
Did it stop your problems?
No. I said, you got to develop. I mean, 1 and 1 makes 2. So why don't we get smart about this?
So the earliest written record of a monster in the Loch Ness area is a 7th century biography by St. Columbia.
Oh.
When's the famous photo from?
That one's like the 50s. It's the black and white.
Post Aleister Crowley.
Yes, that's true. Oh, 1930. The surgeon's photo.
Which would have been around the time, I believe.
Yep.
It was that.
Let me actually look up.
So
I thought that photo was disproved. That there was actually a guy that had something made up, and they did the horseshit.
I mean, debunking only goes to a point. Right?
The surgeon supposedly on his deathbed said that he had faked it, that it was a faked photo, but it wasn't until his deathbed. So Aleister Crowley was born in 1875 and died December 1947.
I hope I die in my sleep. That way, I'm not on my deathbed, and I have a compelling feeling to reveal.
Okay, so let's go into what you need to reveal. What do you need to reveal? We have a captive audience.
Nothing at all.
So
it's gonna stay with me to the day I die.
But you have things. You have secrets.
Dude, bro, who doesn't, right?
So my next one, do we have me and you next?
No, he just did his Nessie.
Okay. So it's just me and Dave then?
No, it's just you.
Just me?
You're the last guy.
Wendigo.
Oh, good one. I love it.
You're going after him first.
I don't know. After I poop myself, yeah.
We just need to be faster than him.
We got
Yeah,
this.
everybody says that.
We
But
got
no one
this.
truly knows how fast Parachon is.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm pretty confident.
Well, but if he's also covered in poo, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a really funny story. I'm not going to tell the story. It's not a story. My wife and I were just like a couple months ago. We were like, we've never seen each other run. Like, how often do you see your friends and people run?
Oh, I think you're talking about you and your wife. My
Like,
wife.
I
No,
feel
in
like
general.
I
My
could
wife sees me run all the
outrun
time.
Larry,
Yeah, you probably could.
but I have bad knees.
But the Wendigo is terrifying. Like,
Absolutely.
Now you realize the actual Wendigo from myths, legends, and lore doesn't have the antlers, right?
yes, that was a yes.
It's more of a bipedal Yeti-looking
Yes.
creature, right?
Yeah.
Well, Indian legend.
To me,
is-
that's
is-
more terrifying.
Well, the origin stories most Indian legends talk about it's coming from how to be cannibals.
Yeah,
Cannibalism.
from Indian
Yep.
become
Yeah.
cannibal.
Yeah.
One of their
Yeah.
own. I think it's got to be one of their own or
Yeah,
something.
one of their
like
own,
that.
own
relatives,
tribe when
yeah.
you're during the winter can turn you into this thing that then only craves
Human flesh. I believe there was a guy that was arrested and stuff like that for eating his family or something like that. They called him.
There are
There's
a lot of
probably
them,
a
but
lot
they
of
just
them.
didn't call them Wendigo.
Well, this guy
But
was
I
on
mean,
a
but here's to me the little tidbit of thing is, okay, how do you know that person turned into the Wendigo? How do you not know that's just a rampant Bigfoot that's eating people?
Well, I think well, I won't say common sense. If you get out of that realm, you're going to be, yeah, that guy's just a messed up dude. He's another Jeffrey Dahmer or whatever. You know, he absolutely
Well,
ate
but
his
they
family.
turn into that creature.
Yeah.
Right.
So they don't ever find that person again.
Right.
So how do you know it's that person and not just a creature that just ate him? And
Oh, I
his
see what you're
family?
saying. I'm talking about the guy that did catch.
Yeah,
so.
I'm talking about the mythical creature that they talk about. Like, I mean, it's the same thing. Like, everybody's like, well, why is a Bigfoot seen more? Well, if it's in a bad mood, there's a probably good reason why you're not hearing more 411. You know, people like, I mean, even like you show up on a bear. You know, it takes a long time to find your body if they're not eating you completely.
That's
Yeah,
fair.
you're pretty much, you're gone.
Yeah, I mean, the things that
Make you go.
well, no, it's if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Except for bears, bears just kill you.
Yeah,
You know,
that's real. No,
You know,
that's real.
mankind has had a major history with bears, and we don't mess around with bears.
Doesn't usually work out
No.
too well.
But no, I mean, the Wendigo is terrifying. You know, it's a Yeti-like creature, white, usually in the winter. Legends is
But it's specifically should only be terrifying to a certain
Tribe.
person, individual.
to turn into it, but once they've been turned, they crave human flesh. That's the problem. Because once it becomes
I thought
a
it was
monster,
more specific than that.
No.
no, once they well, to become that, yes, but once you become it, they just crave flesh, human flesh, and it's like, I mean, if you consider yourself a reptile person, I guess you're okay, or a dog man, or you know,
Why did you
a
look at
Bigfoot.
me when
Or
I said that?
identify as a cat.
Identify as a cat. So you can't eat me. I identify as a cat. I'm not.
I have a reptilian story. I'm not going to tell it right now. You'll have to tune in next time. to
All
hear
right,
that.
nice.
So thank you guys for watching this episode. Grab Bag Cryptid Hour or 2 hour. Be sure to check out all of our links. Follow and subscribe. Go to Patreon, TikTok. Obviously, you're watching this on YouTube, so subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or X, Rumble, Reddit, Instagram,
And come see us at
Paracon.
the Ellenwood Paracon,
And?
and the KC Paracon.
Paracon Casey.
Paracon KC.
Casey Paracon will get you there anyways, but it's Paracon Casey.
Lansing or Leavenworth, Kansas.
Lansing.
Leavenworth.
Leavenworth. I keep on thinking it's
They're
Lansing.
the same thing to me.
They're blended together.
Yeah.
But
So until next time,
be safe.
be safe.
Safe.
Just outrun Larry.